How do you have the best year yet? Hi, my name is John Ryan, and I want to share with you a system I call Plan Your Dreams, which has allowed me over the last couple decades to not only set but achieve almost every goal that I've wanted to achieve in a variety of areas of life, including running a marathon, skydiving, writing a book, delivering over 2,000 days of presentations and workshops. The lists go on and on. It's something I've also shared with my clients, but I want to share with you today so you can get started on creating your best year yet. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we need to think about as we jump into this is if we can summarize the whole process, what we're really doing here is answering three questions. We're answering the question first, which is, where are you now? We need to understand where we are. This is point A. We also need to understand where do you want to be? That's point B, literally. So point A to point B. And then what's the path? How are we going to get there? How are we going to get from point A to point B? And to do that, we're going to look at 6 different steps. And the first step in our process is reflection. We need to do a little bit of an inventory on where we are right now and take a good look at how things are going. Are we happy with where things are? Awesome. Then we're already on the path to the best year yet. If not, what are we going to change? Well, to do that, we need to take stock on where we are right now. So to help you with that, I have a couple different worksheets and spreadsheets that you can download. I'll put a link in the description so you can access the same exact files that we're working with here inside of this video. Now, the first thing we're going to do is open up the Plan Your Dreams Planner, which is a Microsoft Excel file. Now, if you don't have Microsoft Excel, you can always upload it to Google Drive and use it inside of Google Sheets, or you can do the printable PDF and that will work just fine as well. First thing we want to do though is figure out, how are we spending our time? What are the major areas of life that are important to us? Now, a lot of productivity and personal growth development systems focus on a fixed amount. They say, well, these are the 4 areas of life that everyone has, or the 6 areas, or the 10 areas of life that everyone has. And that's fine, but I don't necessarily believe in a one size fits all. So we want to customize this to you. So inside the spreadsheet or on the printout, just come in and just write down or type in, what are the major areas of life for you? So for me, let's put in the word career. Career is important, family, relationship. And by the way, these words are arbitrary. You can pick whatever words work for you. So instead of career, maybe it's wealth or income or finance or whatever term that connects to you. Relationship, let's put in health. Growth is important, and spirituality. Okay, now we got our areas of life, and what we're then going to do is figure out how much time are we spending in each area of life. Now, we can do this by proactively getting a time log and keeping track of how we spend our time hour by hour, maybe every 30 minutes, get an increment, and look for that in the next week or two and get a sense of that. Or you can simply open up your calendar and look at it retroactively and figure out, hey, how am I spending my time on average? So let's say, for example purposes, that you work 10 hours a day during the week and 5 hours a day on the weekend. So that puts us at 50 plus 5 and 5, which gets us to 60 hours a week. Now, the moment you plug this into the sheet, you get a chart. Now, this is often referred to as a life pie or a wheel of life, and this is going to update as we add in the time for each of the areas of life. So for career, we have 60. For family, let's say that we have 2 hours a day times 7 days, which gets us 14 hours. We spend at least an hour with our significant other. That gets us to 7. Health, maybe you do every other day, working out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, an hour and a half in the gym. Let's kind of round that up to 5 hours in a week. We do a podcast meditation every day. Let's put that at maybe 10 hours overall. And spirituality, we do 4 hours on Sunday, going to church or out in nature, whatever it is that you do for that. Now we have our life pie. We can look at that and start to make some evaluations and get a real sense of how we're actually spending our time on a typical week. Now, this might look good to you and you say, oh, that's awesome. Or you look at it and you're like, that's a little concerning because most of my time is spent at work and I'd much rather have it be more in harmony. Now, we're not looking for balance, and that's one of the things I like about customizing like this. A lot of other models out there, when you divide it by 6 or 4 or 10 or whatever, is they do equal divisions. That's not how life is. Life isn't equally divided. So what we're looking for is a harmony. Now, if you look at this and the hours look good to you and you feel energized and happy about it, that's awesome. That's going to show up in our system in just a moment. So now that we have our hours, the next thing we got to do is look at how do we feel about this? Not only in the total hours, the quantity, but also the quality of the experience. How satisfied or fulfilled are you in this area of life? So maybe in career, as I look at it, I love my work, but I'm not really happy in the overall amount of time that I'm spending. So I'm going to put that as a 6. Family, that's a 10. Relationship, I could spend more time in the relationship, maybe some more date nights and things like that. So let's put that, it's really, really good, but it's a 9 and it could be better. I'm going to put some more time in that to make this the best year yet. Or we look at health and say, I'm kind of there. I'm actually dialed in on health. Growth, I'm feeling, okay, that's probably a little bit too much time focusing on growth, or maybe it's the perfect amount of time. That's up to you. You can decide for that and how you feel about that. Let's put that as a 10. But spirituality, I've kind of been feeling disconnected from source, disconnected from my spirituality. And I really feel that that's a 5. So it's not just the time, just that I'm not bringing it into my everyday experience. So just because we make this a 5 doesn't mean for our next year that we have to spend 30 hours in spirituality. Maybe the idea is that spirituality isn't separate. It's something that we bring in. So we'll get clear on that in the goals when we get to that section for now. But for now, we're just doing reflections on how are we spending our time and how do we actually feel about it. Next up, we're looking at priority. So now we're going to go through and actually rank them. So if I were to make this the best year yet, which area is the most important, the next most important, and so on and so forth. By the way, we're going to be setting goals in each area. This is just giving a sense of what is the priority for us right now. So maybe career, career, I need to improve the career, not in terms of spending more time, but changing the amount of time that I spend. So I'm going to make that number 1. I'm going to put this in at number 2. And then these are pretty close, 9, 10, all the way down. So I'm just going to kind of randomly 3, 5, 6, and 4 in that sense. So now we have our prioritized list. Let's click in here and I have a little shortcut for sorting A to Z. And now we are good to go. So now we have our areas of life that are prioritized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the relative rating of satisfaction and the amount of time that we're actually spending there. So now that we've gone through and identified what are the areas of life, how much time we're spending inside of each area, how we feel about those areas, and prioritize the areas, that's all we needed to do for the reflection part. That shouldn't take you too long to get a baseline of where you're at. And then the next part is actually looking at where do we want to go. Again, this is the second question. So we know where we are now. What's point A? What's point B? What are your goals inside of each area of life? To do that, we're going to go back into our Excel sheet and then go to the goals worksheet over here at the bottom. And now we're going to answer the question, where do you want to be? So we already have point A. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And we're just going to fill this out. So you'll see that your areas of life are already filled in based on what you put in on the reflections tab. And now all you're going to do now is start thinking about what is your major goal for the year, such that if you were to accomplish this goal, it would absolutely make it the best year yet. That's the criteria that we're looking for. So for our career, I want to say maybe set more boundaries at work and be more efficient with my time, establish leverage, and create systems so that I can have the lifestyle that I desire. So the next part is to put in the why. Why do we want to make this happen? And this is a very crucial component to the process because we're looking at what, that's the goal, and then the why. You may have heard that idea that you can accomplish any what if you have a big enough why. So if you look at the why and you build this up and this is not very compelling to you, then you need to go back to the drawing board and write something in there that's really going to get things moving. So why is this important to me? So that I can live the life that I truly want and spend time with the people that are most important to me. Now, I would go on and I would probably spend 15 to 30 minutes really doing some soul searching to fill this up with lots of momentum and emotion. So it's not just words. We don't just want to put in lip service to this. We want to make something that when you think about what this goal really is and what it means to you, that it gets you out of the bed in the morning and it gets you rocking and rolling. So that's the goals piece. We know from step 1 where we are. We know from now step 2 where we want to go. Now number 3 is the action plan. What is the path to help us go from point A to point B? So for the action plan, once we fill out the goals, once we fill out the why, we're then ready for the next tab, which is action. So we have the same thing we had before, which is the categories, the areas of life from the reflection tab fills in the goals, which also fills in the action tab. And now we just come in here, and this is where the rubber begins to meet the road. We have to start planning out what is this actually going to look like in each area of life. So inside of this spreadsheet over here, which is how are we going to get there? We know the goal. We want to set up systems and processes and start setting more boundaries so we can have more time for the people that are most important to us. That was part of the goal and a little bit of the why that's there. We're going to start breaking this down on a quarterly basis. So what are the major projects and initiatives that you're going to do in each area of life? Now, keep in mind, our goal is not necessarily to put a goal in every cell inside of this table that we're dealing with here, because that's 6 areas for my example. You might have more times 12 months. So 6 times 12, that gets you 72 different goals for the year. That's a lot of goals. What we're using here is this diagram to help us create a map in how we're going to get there. What's the action plan? So for career, if I think about it, I want to spend less time at the office. Well, I probably maybe need to, for January, I'm going to just do a time log. I'm just going to figure out how am I spending my time? Or maybe in February, based on that time log, I'm going to hire a coach to help me get more efficient. And then in March, I'm going to start setting up systems. And now that we have systems in place, maybe what my first initiative in Q2 is going to be developing my team. And you can encode these however you want to and get more specific or more detailed if you wish. But then I realized that I don't have the skills necessary. I'm not very good at delegating. So maybe back here in January, February, I'm going to take a training as part of growth on developing a team. Awesome. Put that in there. And I start to fill this out and I can back plan a little bit. So if I don't know about systems, guess what I'm going to do in January? Systems training. And I can come back here and start getting myself some topics, and you start to kind of map things in. Now, again, the goal is not to fill in every single cell, but to really get a map of how we're going to get from point A over to point B. That's the beginning of what we're doing here with action plan. Now, here's the cool thing. As you look at this entire map of what your year is going to look like, all the areas across all quarters and all months, if you don't get excited about this, then you haven't designed the best year yet. This is almost like the limiter. This is the intention. This is the map. If you don't know where you want to go, there's almost no chance of you getting there. Now, if this looks overwhelming, okay, that's another issue to consider as well, but we want to put it on paper so we can get a target of where we're actually going to. What does point B really look like? Then it's about moving on to the next step. And the next step after developing our action plan is to measure and manage. So we know where we are now, we know where we want to go, we know how to get there. Now we just have to make sure that we don't veer too far off the path. And one way to think about it is you're the pilot of your life. And maybe you're starting in New York and you want to get to LAX. Well, you leave the airport with best intentions of getting to where you want to go, but maybe you're not paying attention. Maybe you're watching a video or something, doing autopilot kind of things, and you start veering off course. Well, even a little bit, you might not notice immediately, but 1% over that amount of time and that amount of distance is going to make you land in the wrong place. So to avoid that, we want to measure and manage along the way. And keep in mind, as we develop this plan going forward, this is not about creating a rigid, inflexible system. This is about progress over perfection. And one way to measure and manage our progress on the path to hitting our goals is to think about something I call 1-4-1-1, which is 1 year, 4 quarters, 1 month, and 1 week. These are the levels of the playing field that we're dealing with. We can look at the big picture, which is the big goals we did inside the spreadsheet with the goal. Then we can break it down into the quarters and the months. But then there's a higher level of detail that we need to get to so we can really make sure that we're taking action to hit the goals we want to hit on a monthly and quarterly basis. To do that, we're going to jump into our calendar. So here we are inside of Google Calendar, and this can work for Google, it can work for Outlook or any other calendaring system that you want. And what we want to do for planning purposes, the best time horizon for making things happen is to look at it for a week. So essentially what we do is we look at our week, and I'm looking at a blank slate. I just created a calendar. You can create a brand new one inside of here under other calendars, create one, but I created one called Amazing Week. And what we're going to do essentially inside of this calendar is start blocking out using time blocks how we want to spend our time so that we can look at it on paper, just like we did with our quarters and our year, and determine, is this a good outline for me for how I spend my time? Now, we're probably not going to hit the mark in terms of exactly following the calendar for most people, but it's going to give us a general set of intentions. And if we don't have an intention of what's going to look like, then we're going to let the world's demands dictate how we spend our time. So instead, we want to be intentional, set the intention ourselves so we can optimize our chance for having a life that has harmony and fulfillment based on the things that are really important to us in our areas of life. So we're going to start by going inside of here. And let's say that we decide that every morning we're going to wake up, and let's go into, looks like this is the Monday. And we're going to set up a calendar event. That calendar event is going to be, maybe it is go to the gym. Let's just call it gym and hit enter. Now, before I hit enter, I might want to do this every day. So I don't want to do this once in a while. I'm going to go ahead and go down here, and let's go into more options. And there's other ways to do this, of course, as well. And I'm going to repeat this when? I'm going to repeat this on every day of the week, Monday through Friday, if that's our plan. I think we talked about a 3-day week plan, but you get the general gist. So now we have it here and it is good to go. Now, if I want to, I might want to color code this so that I know that this is my jam. This is my magic time. I'll put this in a color coding and following for all events. And so for now, until all of eternity at 6 a.m., we are starting out and we're making that happen. Okay, now we have that. And maybe down here, we're going to put in another thing. We'll put in our 30 or 45 minutes, same kind of thing. Let's call this meditation and growth. And this will be the extent of our morning routine. Come in, more options, same kind of thing. Let's color this one. Let's look at that one as an orange. And let's repeat this as well. Put this on weekly, every day, Monday through Friday. And we'll have a little bit of flexibility on the weekends. Maybe we sleep in, but now we're starting to set up the schedule. Then we're going to hit the office, right? Now, you could do a big block from 8 to 5. The problem with doing a big block 8 to 5 is it's not specific enough, because now we have essentially an 8-9 hour span without any specificity of what we're doing to hit our goals. So then we can go back to our spreadsheet and look at the systems and becoming more efficient and start putting in, when am I having my meetings with my team? When am I doing system design and things like that? So we can start creating blocks for where we're going to be spending time to hit the goals that we already set up on our Plan Your Dreams planner. So we go through our calendar and we start creating opportunities for us to be successful in each of the areas of life that are important to us. We're going to block out, where is that family time going to come from? So what we're doing is essentially mapping out the best year yet. That if you were to even fulfill a fraction of what your plan is on a weekly basis, because a week is made up of how you spend the day. How you spend the day determines how you spend the week. How you spend the week determines the month, and so on and so forth. So if you want to have an amazing year, you have to have an amazing week. You have to have an amazing day. And it all begins with setting aside the time to carve out that time. When are you spending time with your family? When are you spending time on your health, on your personal growth and development, your spirituality, and your relationships? So take the areas of life and start carving out those windows, those time blocks to set yourself up for success. Now that we have a system in place to measure and manage our progress, it's time for accountability, which is step number 5. So accountability can either be internal self-accountability or it can be external accountability. And external accountability is where you're going to find the most results for most people, because there's something about someone else watching that allows us to know that we can't get away with it. So left our own devices, we might slip a little bit and not say anything or think anything of it. But if we know that someone's depending on us and watching us, we tend to do more, we take more action and get more results, which is how we can create the best year yet. Let's go and take a look at how to do that. Now, there are lots of ways to create accountability, and what we're going to look at now is not necessarily how, but rather who. So for this, right back into the action section, in other words, how we're going to get there, there's a section for accountability. I just want you to take some time to think through each of the areas and how are you planning on creating external accountability. It could also be internal if you wish. So for career, maybe we'll type in that we'll be working with our coach to maintain consistent accountability in our business. Spirituality, let's call that self. And maybe for the family, we just call it, the fam. The fam and I are going to set up weekly meetings to make sure that we're living the best life that we are dreaming together as a family. So once you have identified who, then it's time to go back to your calendar, whether that's a Google Calendar, Outlook, or a physical planner, and figure out how often are you meeting with this person to make sure that you're hitting your goals. Because left our own devices, we drift. Instead, let's create some external accountability and create that momentum towards the goals that we're looking for. And now that we've set up our accountability system for each area of our life, we're now ready for step 6, which is mindset. We need to manage our mindset because after all, our goal is not just to get through the year, but to have our best year yet. In order to do that, that really comes from our thoughts and our feelings, our beliefs and our emotions. So if you have inside of you limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, limiting emotions, limiting behavior patterns that you have that are holding you back, this absolutely has to be the year that you break through those experiences. So I highly recommend get with a breakthrough coach, get with an NLP coach, a mindset coach, a transformation coach, someone who can help you identify what these obstacles are that are holding you back, and then not only help you identify them, but help you break through them very efficiently so you can hit the ground running and really create that best year yet that we're talking about. So all in all, we talked about the 6 steps to creating your best year yet, which is otherwise known as the Plan Your Dreams process. So what we're dealing with here is beginning with reflection. Where are you now? Then we look into our goals. Where do you want to be? And then we're looking at the action plan. How do you want to get there? And then as part of that process, how are we going to measure and manage our results? What kind of accountability systems are we going to create to make sure that we're staying on the path, that we're not veering too far away from it? Remember, progress over perfection. And how are we going to maintain that masterful mindset to really create a life that we not only live, but love and spend with the people that are most important to us and creating the impact and income that we desire and we deserve. And if you want help with mindset or any other piece of the Plan Your Dreams process, I encourage you to schedule time to talk with myself or someone else on my team, one of our master coaches that we have on staff. We're happy to figure out what your challenges are and help you come up with a plan to help you create the best year yet. So thanks so much for watching. Most importantly, now that you have this information, go ahead and apply it. That's the only time you're going to be able to get results. And until next time, develop yourself, empower others, and lead by example.